Hey, this video is very important to me, and I wrote down a couple of points I want to go with you. The main purpose is like, why did I change my profile picture here on YouTube, even my other YouTube channel, and all of my other social media profiles, like even WhatsApp and Instagram, to a Clippy? If you don't know who Clippy is, Clippy was this little guy that you used in Microsoft Word, I think in 1996 or something, 98 versions. Anyway, the movement was started by this one guy. He's called Louis Rossmann. He runs a repair shop in New York and also a YouTube channel that is now over 2 million subscribers. And basically, before I show you that video, and we want to talk about this because I think you should also change your profile picture to a Clippy. The reason why I make this video now is because I see a pattern happening in society right now that also happened already in the past, but it's even getting worse. To jump to one of the conclusions later, for example, here in the EU, we have currently something that is happening that is called chat control. That's a law that is passed by EU, that will be passed by EU, I think 14th of October, so somewhere in October. So we still have chance to block that one, but I just saw that yesterday and not many people are talking about this. And what this basically means is whenever you write a text message on your phone, if it's iMessage, if it's WhatsApp, if it's using messenger systems, anyway, all of the messenger systems will probably in the future comply with this because that will be a law. At the moment, it's presented to protect children and children abuse. But basically what it also is, it's an AI. Before you even send your message, it will scan your message. And if there is any kind of suspicious behavior, your message will be flagged. And it will also be in the future so automated that, for example, if the AI think that you shouldn't send that, it will automatically turn it off so that you can't even send the message. And to jump even to one more conclusion, we in the EU here, and if I look into the world, and I don't want to go into conspiracies, but this is something that is now happening actually, we are running more into the digital ID and also the digital currency and even a credit system similar that they have in China. I will talk about this a little bit more in the end of this video that you can see the picture that I now see, the puzzle pieces, and why I think this is so important right now. And what we can actually maybe do, not just changing the profile picture, of course, because I saw even lots of people, okay, what does it even do if we change the profile picture? But it's the first step that we see that lots of people understand the issue and also are willing to do something about it. And each of one of us can individually do something about it. Like, for example, one of the steps with the chat control, yesterday I sent to all of the German government officials an email telling them that I'm not for that and that they should vote against that because it's absolutely against privacy laws. And this is something you will now notice. That's a pattern. That's one of these puzzle pieces I want to point out, that in this modern world, we give up a lot of our privacy rights for convenience. Why do we accept something like messaging, like AI control? Because of convenience. It will come through because people don't really care, because yeah, we got so used to everything that we do here on the phone that this will just slowly adopt. So let's talk about what this is all about here. So Louis Rossmann has a YouTube channel, and I think over the last 10 years, I don't know when he exactly started, but I actually follow him already like maybe 5 or 4 years ago. And I find his content very interesting because he has a repair shop, and let's say, for example, you have a MacBook and something doesn't work. Your screen is black. And you go to an officially Apple store and you want to get this repaired. So the first thing what they do is they always take the MacBook or whatever device and they bring it in the background. You can't even see what they're doing. They somehow open it or they run some diagnostics and then they come out. And what very often happens, and he has so many videos on his channel where people then, after they went to the Apple store, came to his store because they were furious. So the screen doesn't work anymore. So clearly the laptop still works, or the MacBook still works. The screen somehow is black. What can we do? An Apple employee comes out. Somehow this is this broken, this is this. The only thing we can do now is to change the logic board. Logic board is like the main board. It's just called logic board with Apple. So we have to change the logic board. But that is around $950 to $1,500. So we can either do that and order a new logic board, but you will lose all of your data and that and that and that and that. Or you can also buy a complete new MacBook. It's maybe even faster and blah, blah, blah. So of course, if you have a MacBook and it's just 3 years old and you don't want to buy a new MacBook, many people don't even have the money to just buy a new MacBook because something simple was broken. So they go to an alternative repair shop and then they ask them. And in these videos, you wouldn't believe how many times he opens a MacBook on camera and then finds out that, hey, there is just a little cable that goes from the monitor to the logic board, and that somehow the pin is off or something is bended. Something simple that sometimes just takes like maybe 5 minutes to repair, or maybe $5 to $10 to repair. He had many videos where he didn't even charge the people, plugged it back in, and the MacBook was working. But imagine how many people go to the App Store, not the App Store, but the Apple Store, and give their MacBook in good faith, and then they tell them you have to replace the logic board. Boom, $1,000 more for Apple. That's the main purpose of this whole movement thing, and also this what is happening in the world. His movement that he started is called the right to repair. We come from a world where we owned what we purchased. So if you purchase something, you owned it. You can do whatever you want with this. So obviously you don't own the company, the rights, but if you, for example, let's go into the movie industry. If you purchased a VHS cassette or a Blu-ray DVD, so you own that physical medium. So there is nobody coming into your house and then, like, let's say 5 years later telling you, oh, now you can't have it anymore, so we take your Blu-ray away. Let's come to the examples. And I was surprised because I didn't really know all of these things. This year, at the beginning of the year, I purchased a new Kindle device. I have a Kindle because I travel around the world, and I think they are great and amazing pieces of tech because I can read a lot of books without buying the books in physical. What I never knew until last year, and I'm honest with you, I knew a bit about this, but I did not knew that this works like that. All my books that I purchased in the last 10 years in Amazon, I don't own. And I'm not talking about the rights to the book. Obviously, you never own the rights to the book. Like, you don't become suddenly the owner of that one Stephen King book or something. But let's go back. If you purchased a physical book, if your parents bought a book and it's still, you still have it in your house, that physical copy is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You can write into the papers, you can burn it, whatever. It's yours. Nobody will come and steal or change the content of that physical book. The words will still be the same. It is intended like the author was writing it. Not with Amazon. All my books that I purchased, and that's very important. I'm not talking now about these subscription models like unlimited, as a Kindle Unlimited or something, where you have access to all books, right? When it comes to these kind of subscriptions, we somehow accepted that because, yeah, okay, we get access to all as long as we pay. And if we stop paying, we don't have it. No, no, no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the books that I actually purchased. Each of the books was around $10. So I have a library now, like not the biggest. There are people on the planet that have bigger libraries, but even my library is around 100 to 150 books. That means I paid 150 times 10 euros, the same price I would pay buy a physical book. But because of convenience, I purchased it for my Kindle. If you go through the terms, and you probably maybe know, maybe don't know, you don't own these books. At any time, Amazon can just revoke the rights to this book. It doesn't have to be all of it, right? You could lose your account, of course. There are stories in the past where this happens for whatever reason. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be a serious reason, right? Because we always think, yeah, if something serious happens, then of course you can lose your account. And you also, because of that serious reason, you lost now access. It's your own fault. No, there are cases where people didn't do anything wrong, just an AI flagged them or whatever happened, and then nobody really looked into it and they lost their account. Hundreds of books purchased and you don't even have them anymore. Why this is so serious regarding Amazon, for example, when I purchased the Kindle Scribe and I looked into it and I learned a bit more about that, and I was actually like, what? And I am honest, I'm also doing it because of convenience. I could have boycotted not buying this device, but I already had it. So yeah, it feels a little bit like I'm telling you this, but at the same time, I'm also doing this. I just want to point this out. This is one of the examples where in the modern world, we don't own it. Let's talk again about Amazon. All the movies that I purchased, and I'm not talking about Amazon Prime, where you have a subscription and then you get access to the libraries or whatever is there at the moment. No, I'm talking about if there was a movie not available, I purchased them. And sometimes if the money difference to renting and purchasing was like only $2-3 more, I just purchased them. Same thing. You don't own that copy. They could at any time change the content, revoke it. Oh yeah, one more important thing why this is so crazy. There is recorded cases in Amazon, for example, because of political view, they go sometimes back into a book that was written 30 years ago and they change the wording to make it match more the political view of today. That's manipulation. Even if it's very subtle and maybe most people don't care about it, but this, I would love to read the book how it was intended by the author. And if I purchase a book, not renting it, I purchase it, why do I don't own it? That's the thing, the whole premise that he also shows, of course, related more to electronic stuff. But I see this shift, that's why I'm making this video. I see this shift happening in all different areas of our world. It started with electronics, but it goes now to so far that, yeah, I want to give you an example. On his channel, there is a guy that purchased a fridge. So here, this is a big fridge that has like this water thing here, and there is a water filter inside. And this company of that fridge, they put now an RFID chip into the water filter. So if you buy another water filter from a different company that fits, it's exactly the same, maybe even the same manufacturer that creates both devices, one time the off brand and one time the same brand, because it probably comes from the same company in China somewhere. But if you now go to Amazon and purchase the cheaper version, like this filter, if you buy it from that company new, it's around 50 bucks. And you can get actually we're talking about a water filter. You can actually get a water filter for like 5 to 15 bucks. But if you now use that other brand and you put it in, everything fits, the fridge will not work. Because here on that side, and this guy here in the video basically shows you where the RFID chip is. And in this video, he even shows you like a repair. You can take off the RFID chip from the original and then just put it back to the new filter and then it works again. So why this is a problem? The company comes out and they tell you something in the terms like, oh, to protect our fridge and to protect the consumers, we make sure that only the original equipment is fitting to the fridge. But I just gave you an example. It could even be that this is the exact same part, just now sold under a different name, a different brand. It's a water filter. And you can't even do this. It's like if the big companies come to you, and basically Apple is doing the same. I was reading about this here on the iPhone 16 or maybe even the iPhone 15. Even now, if you take an original Apple camera from another iPhone and you put it in, it will not work. I'm not 100% sure because I'm not the tech guy that repairs these things, but I read about this, that they now have like some software inside that checks the ID of that original built camera. So even if you use a camera from Apple, which has a different ID, it doesn't work anymore. It begs the question, why do companies do something like this? I want to be straight honest with this. Here, the fridge company, it's the same like with all the printers. You can't use an off-brand anymore. You have to use the original one. And then they turn this, they wrap it into, oh, this is a safety concern. If you change the filter and you take a wrong filter, then maybe there could be some damage to you. So we are just protecting you. What the fuck? No, you're not protecting us. You are forcing us, this is monopole, you're forcing us to only buy from you. And now you can raise the price however you like. Like this guy is pointing out in the video, a filter costs now 50 bucks to replace a filter, a water filter. And I don't know how to continue with this. Maybe you know that now I I wanted to say, like, Louis Rossmann, you can feel that there's a lot of anger when he talks about these topics. But now just recording this video and now going into the topic and trying to explain that, now I can feel like, of course it makes you angry because you can see through that lie. And this is not just once, it's like all the big companies are doing this. I want to jump to one thing later that we will talk. That is related to chat control. I haven't seen anyone other talk about this. Google just announced that Google will now not have any side loading anymore. Side loading, what is side loading? On a Google device, you can install an app even from another website, from your computer, not just from the Google Play Store. Because that's the one thing that people always hate about Apple, that it's so locked, right? You can only buy stuff from Apple through the App Store. I mean, I use an Apple device, and of course I'm into that ecosystem. I don't care too much, but here's the thing. I can totally understand the other side. You get locked into something. And Apple, for example, let's zoom out a bit. I see so many discussions always about the iPad and why is the iPad not becoming Mac? Very simple. With the iPhone, and with the iOS, like the operating system, Apple created something amazing that is tied to what we just talked about with the water filters. They created now a system where they make 30% on anything that you buy through the App Store. And I'm not just talking about apps, I'm even talking about in-app purchases. If I play a video game and I purchase a skin that cost me 10 bucks, $3 immediately goes to Apple. They created a so closed ecosystem that, number one, they can control whatever goes into the ecosystem. So if an app doesn't align with their terms, and they can change the terms at any point to suit their brand, and they're making money off from every other company as well. So that's the reason you have to think about it. That's the reason why companies like Spotify or Netflix don't allow you, maybe they changed it now, but there was a time when they didn't allow you to purchase a subscription through the app. They redirected you to the website so that you can log into the website. That was not convenient, right? But why did they do that? To not give 30% to Apple. That's why they did it. And so Apple will never go back to Mac OS again, where everything is a bit more open, where you can install any third-party app. I can program an app and don't have to be approved. I can run my own apps and then see and do. That goes back to, do you own your stuff? If you own your things, like the example with the books, you can do whatever you want. You can burn them if you want. If that makes sense, it's a different question. But that's the same with how computers started to be. Computer, laptops. Yes, you had the operating system. You were bound to like the players that existed. But at least it was so open that you can do whatever you like. I can install whatever app I like. I didn't have to, like, you get my point, I think. Let's move on. I talked already a lot. I want to give you one video from him that I found, which actually shows you many of these problems combined into one video. And I think we should just watch that together.
It's very hard to discuss a lot of the open source software stuff without pointing out the elephant in the room that Aaron did, which is that about 0.1% of people use it. And if there's anything I've learned about through about 10 years of activism, is you can't tell people to give a shit about something. If you tell them you should care about this because of all these features, they don't care. If you tell them you should care about this because you're bad, that doesn't work. If you like, whether it's repairability and people just making fun of you for being poor for not buying a new one because they don't like being lectured, or telling them to get an electric car and then getting coal rolled on you by an F-250 diesel. Telling people they're bad doesn't work. What actually works is showing them the ways in which they're being screwed, not shoving it down their throats, but just showing them the hundreds of thousands of little cuts that eventually get them to care about a particular issue. So for me, I've been talking about this idea that if you can't fix it, you don't own it. And I've realized that this sentence is a little bit too long. Over the years, it's actually a lot easier to describe what's going on, which is you don't own it. And I think that when you encompass everything under this umbrella, it all starts to make sense. And it
just to tell you something about this, don't own it. It's a puzzle piece that I see. I think Klaus Schwab from the World Health Organization, or is it WHO? Sorry about, sometimes I can get all of the facts, but that's not the important thing. They have an Agenda 2030, and I'm not talking about the conspiracies, but something that they publicly announced on their website and everything. And there's this one sentence where he says, 2030, you don't own anything, or you don't own, but you will be happy, something like that. It's actually very interesting that this, what I'm now pointing out with all the technologies and the services and everything that will come even in the future, ties into that. We slowly, because of convenience, give away our rights. And one more thing I saw yesterday, and I hope I can give you this point so that you understand. My generation and the generation even older than me, so many of my viewers, we understand privacy rights. We had a whole generation fighting for more privacy rights and everything. But with the modern age, with all of the technologies, what is now happening is, because of convenience, we give up our rights. I mean, do you remember the stories of Edward Snowden? I think in already 2005 or 2007, there was even a movie that came out. It was made not from the big studios to highlight the issue, like the issue that the CIA, for example, and many big, I don't know how to say these, like agencies, whenever they want, they can just look into your phone and read and listen to you. And that was something that was coming out already in 2005 or 6, and people didn't believe it. Before, you were be a conspiracy theorist, conspiracy theory guy that made up stupid stories. but then actually they turned out to be right. And now we live in a world where most of us, we know that this is happening and we don't care anymore. Why is that happening? And I think the reason why this is happening is because of convenience. We use these devices, and because it's so convenient, they make our life better in many ways. And I couldn't of course, right? There's so many good things about this and the technology, and even for us filmmakers, right? That because of convenience, we give up our rights. But what happens then is if we give up our rights, it slowly moves into the next generation, and the next generation doesn't even know what it means to have rights. They come now from an angle. If you now, for example, say something about, hey, I want to keep my rights, they say, do you have something to hide? Are you guilty of something? No, it has nothing to do with being guilty. It's more about just protecting the freedom that we have right now. Because if you take away freedom, at any point, even if we say at the beginning, we don't only do this because we want to find terrorists or we want to find people who abuse kids and childs. I mean, that sounds good, right? That we should have something like it's safety and security. But any system that you use for that, later you can expand. And if you expand it, then suddenly you could become the target. You could say one thing against your government because your government does one thing that you don't like, and you really believe that. And in a world where it's free speech and you have all of these rights, you can just go out and say what you think and even start a movement. In a future where this is not allowed anymore, where people come to your home and try to suppress you and intimidate you, this is where you can now then see that, oh, wait a second, we gave up convenience and slowly moved into this future. And now suddenly, even you don't even have to be a criminal. It could just be that whatever you say can offend someone, and then they can use this against you. And I think from the bottom of my heart, I believe that's not correct. That sounds for me like all of these crazy, like the book George Orwell, 1984 or 1986, or I think 1984, these utopian futures. Okay, let's move on.
Brings all these different groups of people together. So I just thought I'd like to give you a couple of examples of some words that have been redefined over the past several years. One of them is the word ownership, and I don't like when people try to redefine words and use them the way they're not intended. As you can see, this word has had a meaning since the 14th century: to acquire in exchange for payment in money or an equivalent. To buy, the usual sense. To acquire, which means I have it, I own it. The action or act of obtaining something in exchange for payment in money or an equivalent. Now, the usual sense. This word has been redefined in many ways, and I'm going to read some of the company redefinitions of this word as we go on. One of them comes from Sony. This is a legal update notice from December of 2023. As of December 31st, 2023, due to our content licensing arrangements with content providers, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased content, and the content will be removed from your video library. We sincerely thank you for your continued support. AKA, fuck all of you.
I told you about Amazon and the licensing thing. I don't believe that Amazon will go away. And so I don't fear that my library will be gone in the next couple of years. I fear more that content just can be stripped based on whatever happens in the world. But here we have another big company, Sony. If you purchased your movies through that service, and doesn't matter how much money you spend, you could have spent 1,000 euros on movies and built a library, not knowing that you don't own it, but you thought you own it, because that's one of the big issues that we have right now. Nobody is reading all of the terms. Like even lawyers don't read 200 pages of terms if they just purchase something. If they purchase a movie on Amazon, nobody cares. But the problem is that when you buy it, you don't know what the terms are. And we are even living in a world where the terms can be changed afterwards. I just want to highlight one thing. Maybe not so interesting for you, or maybe it is interesting. That is actually happening in the video games market right now. You purchased a game, let's say 5 years ago. And I'm not talking about a subscription or a free model. You purchased a game in a shop. You have the Blu-ray, the DVD, and you gave 50 bucks to it. At that time, there was a specific terms of conditions applied to it. If you now read it or not, there were some rules with it. Okay. What companies now can do in this modern world is they can change these terms at any time. And you don't have any option to say, no, I don't want to opt in for the new terms. If you don't opt in, you can't use it anymore. That's it. And that's a perfect example with, for example, the book. Imagine you purchased a physical book And now the future update comes out and they want to print a new book version with different words. So you can now choose to buy the new book, or you can say like, no, I don't want that new political view changed book. I want to keep my book. And you can't come to my house and change it. I will keep it because I own it. But because video games is just one example, because video games are now all online, happening in online services, they can change whatever they want. And you wouldn't believe, if you go into this topic more, there are even many class action lawsuits from gamers and other companies against these companies, because that behavior is, let's face it, it's scam. I sell you something and then I change my terms. Imagine I have a supermarket and you come to me and you buy a banana, and then halfway through the banana, I tell you, oh, I just changed my terms and now you don't own that banana anymore. Give it back to me. What the fuck? Will never happen in supermarket or foods or something, obviously. But I make this example that you see what is happening. This is the equivalent in the digital age with the digital products. You purchase something which is even more expensive than a banana, right? And they just, whatever they want to do. Here, perfect example. A big company like Sony. Do you think they got any compensation? Oh, by the way, we had to shut it down. So here you got your $1,000 back. You can go to another service and purchase all of the movies there. Or we even help you here, all of the movies you now have on Amazon. Then maybe people would at least say like, okay, at least this company tried to help me, even if they, obviously not. It's all about money. And you don't own the things.
When you Now, the important thing here is when people will look at this and say, well, you don't get it. You were streaming it. You were renting. No, no, no. It said purchased. When you hit add to cart, it said, do you want to buy this? And you may wonder, how can they get away with this? I put a small sample over here, and the only way I could fit it is by using font size 2. I didn't just learn how to use PowerPoint this morning. This is total. So that's as much as I could get on one page. Now, when you go to page 21 of the Terms of Service, that's where Sony decides to redefine a word that has meant something for 7 centuries. Use of the terms own, ownership, purchase, sale, sold, sell, rent, or buy in this agreement or in connection with the content does not mean or imply any transfer of ownership of any content. If they were to say authorship, that makes sense. I cannot take credit for making Game of Thrones, especially season 7. But that doesn't mean that I don't own it. Except as stated in this agreement, all content provided through PSN is licensed on a non-exclusive and revocable basis. So instead of... See, this is one of the things that I talk about, where if they said on the front page, instead of purchase, licensed on a non-exclusive and revocable basis, you may have not spent $20 on it. If you come into my house and you try to take something out of my media player, one of the great things about Texas is I have the right to blow you out of my house. But if you use TCP/IP to break into my house, sucks to suck. Another word that's been redefined recently, the word lifetime. This word used to have a meaning. Since the 14th century, the duration of a person or animal's life, the period of time over which the person's life extends. Let's just talk about some of the ways that this word has been redefined. Whether we're talking about textbooks, this is one of the things that you have to do if you're going to go to college courses nowadays. A lot of times you cannot get a paper textbook. The professor will require that you buy one of these textbooks that they also just so happen to get a kickback from. Now, this is a little too small for me to zoom in fully, so you can see there's 3 options: 180 days, 1 year, and lifetime. And you could spend twice as much to get a lifetime license. How long do you think lifetime means? Anybody? Take a guess.
5 years.
Very good guess. You must have meant to Austin Community College. It says products labeled as lifetime typically mean 5 years of online access and permanent downloads to a supported device. Typically, not even 5. Some of these have been revoked after 1.5 years. When purchasing a digital product, you can download it for use on a supported device. The downloads will function so long as VitalSource supports the device. This means that if a device or operating system loses compatibility, your downloaded product may no longer work as intended. Thank you. We have some more examples here. This is actually one that just got emailed to me this morning. There was this company that makes a music player for Android that was offering lifetime licenses in order to not see advertisements. So it's one of these things where people will say, well, if you just paid, then we wouldn't have an ad-supported model. This lifetime license lasted for, anybody have a guess?
6 months.
4 months.
Wow.
4 months.
Who is still watching? Do you get that? I think even if it now took so long in my video to explain a lot of these things, and this is just the surface of all of this, lifetime. My DaVinci Resolve Masterclass, I sell as a lifetime. I don't have any terms where I say, oh, lifetime is only 4 months. For me, when I started that, because I purchased online courses with the belief lifetime means that this is me, I own it until I die. To be fair, I haven't even checked the terms of many of these. Maybe they have the same terms, or if, like I said in the example before, maybe you can just change the terms. So I could sell you my masterclass and tell you it's lifetime until you die, and then 1 year later I change the terms and change it to 4 months. So now you have only access to it for 4 months. Yeah, I mean, you purchased this. Is my terms. What? And the problem with these things that he also points out is companies come away with that. You would believe when companies are doing stuff like this is fraud. It's not fraud anymore. What now gets punished, and I'm not sure if he's talking about this in this video, but what's now gets punished is actually if I now come to you and help you, you purchase something that worked, and then because of some of these terms that got changed, and I help you to get back what you just purchased, this is now considered criminal. I just repaired something. No, no, no. It's a new word. It's now hacking. What? No, no, no. I helped you restore your purchase, what you paid for, hundreds of dollars. I give you one example. I think he doesn't have that in this video. Sony, again, Sony has the phone line Xperia, or what they are called. And there was a phone that was advertised for us filmmakers. So I don't know, told me which one, have to go through his videos. But basically the idea was there was a phone that was costing $2,500 more than the flagships at that time, around 5 years ago. And they advertised it that you could use it because of an HDMI port and a headphone jack, all the ports that all the other phones didn't have anymore. And they advertised it to us filmmakers so that we can use it as a second monitor on our big camera. A bigger screen, you can use it, and it was nice. And Sony Xperia died. If you now go to Sony's website, you don't even see these phones anymore. So they obviously lost the battle in the phone market. But it doesn't mean that you didn't have early adopters and people who believed in the vision of what Sony was creating there. Just, I think it's this year, they changed the terms and they now took away all of the apps where you could record your screen and you could see your screen. And they locked it now behind a paywall, monthly subscription, so that you can get access to an app that you had access for 5 years. So they basically screwed all of the customers that believed in them, who already purchased a phone that was more expensive than the rest of the phones because they believed in the vision. But because they couldn't make money off that, they now said, oh, if our ship is sinking, let's take out and milk as much money as we can. And that's a perfect example, same like here with the lifetime. They change the terms afterwards and they come away with that. And if you want to use it, you have to now pay a subscription for a feature that you already had. And this is where, if I come back to the things where we say like, yeah, convenience, and then all of our rights are gone, like it's not affecting the people that it was intended to affect. What I mean by that, like if we use these kind of AI chatbots and everything, and then we say we want to get rid of terrorism and we want to help children abuse, like that this doesn't happen. No, these rights, like we lose the rights for things like that. That shouldn't be possible, that a company can go out and say it's lifetime and then 4 months later they revoke you. Oh, now you have to pay another $50 if you want lifetime again for the next 4 months. That's a subscription. That's not a lifetime access. Okay.
Books. This is another one that's been fun. This just happened recently with Amazon and Kindle. Download and transfer via USB. You used to be able to download a copy of the book that you purchased. You had a permanent copy. Starting February 26, 2025, the download and transfer via USB option will no longer be available. You can still send Kindle books to your Wi-Fi enabled devices by selecting the deliver or remove from device option. Now, aside from the fact that they have told everybody who does not have a Wi-Fi connected Kindle to get fucked, this also means that they have the ability to edit books in your library. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to make a new revision because they don't like the book the way it was written. Like, they're not going to make a 6th edition. This is something where they can take the book that's on your device. The next time you connect to their server to see it, it is different than what you actually bought and paid for. One example from one of Roald Dahl's books. They replaced the word fat with enormous in describing Augustus Gloop. They replaced great horsey face to face. Cloud Men and James and the Giant Peach were renamed to Cloud People. He needs to go on a diet was removed. Mothers and fathers was changed to parents. Plenty of families with a husband, a wife, and several children was changed to families. And if I actually wanted to go through every single one of the edits in this book, it comes out to approximately 53 pages, which is why I've only... 53 pages. Yeah, there was somebody who did an article on this, and their article was 53 pages, just a little table of everything that was edited in these books. I just wanted to read this. When it came to children's books, Dennison said that Dahl didn't care what adults thought as long as his target readers were happy. I don't give a bugger what grown-ups think was a characteristic statement. And I'm almost certain that he would have recognized that alterations to his novels prompted by the political climate were driven by adults rather than children. Dahl wrote stories intended to kindle in children a lifelong love of reading and to remind them of the wonderlands of magic and enchantment, aims in which he succeeded triumphantly. Adult anxieties about political niceties did not register in his outlook. Although Dahl could be unabashed in offending adults, he took pains to never alienate or make unhappy his child readers.
Okay, so I will not go over all of this video. I will link it here in this description if you want to see the full video. I think this keynote is very good, on point. You don't have to watch like hours of his stuff. And now let's come to the latest one, which is basically this one here. I'm not kidding. Change your profile picture.
I was listening to the Facebook whistleblower hearings with Senator Josh Hawley a few months back. One of the elements that stuck out to me was when they were talking about how if an underage girl has deleted a selfie, Meta keeps track of this because they know that this person likely has low self-esteem at that moment that they deleted a picture of themselves, which means that they may be more apt to purchase something from an advertiser of a cosmetic product. And I think about this within the context of what companies used to get in trouble for and what they do, or more importantly, don't get in trouble for today. I grew up in the 90s, a time when Microsoft had hell and fury fall down upon them because they bundled a web browser with their operating system. Whether you think this is a good idea or not, I personally think that a web browser being installed in every single person's computer that's standards non-compliant, that is so bad that you can literally get a virus from visiting a website, has its problems. But when you look at what it is that companies got in trouble for in the 90s, it just doesn't hit the same when you look at what companies get away with now. I remember having a Dell Dimension 233 back in the day, and if you wanted to get the one that had slightly better graphics, they would give you a free installation of Microsoft Office. And with Microsoft Office back in the day, it came with Clippy. Whether or not you like Clippy and whether or not you liked Microsoft Office or having an operating system that had the browser built into it that could easily get you a virus when you visited other websites that were trying to invade your privacy, the one thing that you could say, unlike Facebook, who is trying to profit off of young girls that feel suicidal, Clippy simply wanted to help. He might have been annoying, but he just wanted to help. There were no ulterior motives. If you told Clippy that you were having a bad day, he wasn't going to use that information to try and figure out which advertiser to sell you to, nor was he trying to steal your personal data or get you to purchase other Microsoft products. He had no ulterior motives. He was simply there to help. Unlike many modern pieces of software, like what you get from Adobe or Intuit, where you can't buy QuickBooks anymore, you can't buy a video editor anymore, you have to pay a subscription fee for it. If I were to boot up that computer that has not been used for 28 years, and I wanted to start up Microsoft Word, I could do so without connecting to the internet. And Clippy would still be there, happy and as enthusiastic as ever, simply wanting to help. Adobe is another example of this. This is a company that tried to twist people's arms into having AI and machine learning stuff go through their personal data. Not public data, not the speeches that I give, not my website or my blog posts or my videos, but my...
Imagine that. This is a complete different topic. I think in my last video I talked a bit about this. We live in a world where all of our data is scraped without our consents. Like machine learning, AIs are built on that. And this has a big effect. Like we can now say on one side, okay, that's just how change is, but it was never as rapid and brutal like it is nowadays. What he's now talking about is like that to improve the AI that Adobe can roll out in the future, they're using any technique that they can get for free from you. So if you are a very good video editor or working in Photoshop, all of your techniques and what you do, he will be trained without your consent. So you're paying companies to get a tool, but in return, they rob you of your creativity. I don't even have words for that. And why can they do that? Because all of these foundations, you lose ownership, and then you lose that, and then you lose that, is built on top of each other. I don't have the time for that, but I was also talking with ChatGPT about this, and he rolled out what kind of plan and how this would happen. And the core idea of this is like every time when you have like something big happens, like let's say COVID, for example, something big happens in the world where you can change laws that you couldn't change before, even if you roll back, even if years later it comes out that many of the things were not right and they were designed, the laws don't change completely. You never roll back to the way it was before. You will always have then some kinds of laws that allow those people to take your privacy away. Let's talk about the chat application thing that is happening in the EU right now. They want to scan any message that you send from your phone before it's even sent. They will use AI technology to analyze your messages. And if they fit certain patterns, and this is so funny, or not funny, I was reading that in the countries where they tested this already, the success rate of the AI, so the AI flags content where it thinks it could be something harmful or whatever, right? The success rate wasn't even that high. In some countries, 50% of the flagged content wasn't even what it intended to be flagged. So we will roll out a feature that is not even on the point of being accurate. Like, this is a whole problem for itself. Now you can say, yeah, but it will get better over time. Yes, of course. But again, you are a person that is not criminal. And now every message that you send will be monitored by AI. And if the AI thinks that there is a pattern in your behavior or in the way you write, and mind my words, it's not just about child abuse. I'm thinking, why does it even help at all? I'm sorry to tell you that. Like, obviously, maybe it helps, but I mean, if someone wants to abuse someone, who says that he will text about that? How do we protect the people who don't use the phone for telling that? I mean, and anyway, so told you this, I told you this, told you this. Oh, by the way, on this site is not just people like me in the internet who talk about this. This whole movement that you can't even repair your stuff, that you don't own the things, is even affecting the government itself. There's many military videos for people where in the past the military could just repair their stuff themselves. But now, same like with the Apple devices, oh, you're not supposed to repair this anymore because it could be a safety issue. So now we have to send a technician out. That's the same for military. Some of the equipment, they are in a war zone, and then they have to call a company, hey, that doesn't work anymore. So they have to fly in someone from them to repair it. That makes no sense. It's life or death in these kind of situations. So we had a time where you had a car and you can learn how to fix it yourself. So you didn't have to go to the manufacturer of the car. But this is where we had, like, I haven't even talked about cars, but in the car industry, it's exactly the same like with the fridge. There are so many parts where they just by design force you to buy a part to repair it from the manufacturer itself. They boycott repair at all. And why? If you think about it, why? The more you take away this right from us, all of us, the more you can control us. Either in how we spend money, you can grab more money from us, because if my phone breaks and it costs as much as buying a new phone, then yeah, I just rather buy a new phone. And then instead of paying like $50 in the past, I now have to pay $1,000 for a new phone. That gives the company so much more value. That increases the lifetime value of the customer. That's one side of this. But also it leads into this future that now governments like EU, for example, can do this whole thing with the chat control. This wouldn't be possible if we would still have all of the freedom of speech, all of the rights of privacy. I mean, even me now recording this video, I have to be honest, I am a bit afraid what does this mean for my future? Maybe not now, but what if we have this in the future and it goes back to everything that you created? And I made a video about this, and then for whatever reason in the future, we also include credit scores or something, so social credit score, because, yeah, big picture. We watched that one. I want to give one more thing. Google is now changing the sideload ability. You can't install apps anymore. So basically, Google Android becomes now iPhone. Why do they do that? On one side, again, money. If they can follow the steps from Apple and have a Play Store where they can make money from everyone that is on that Play Store and limit your access to other apps, that makes them more money in the long run. But when I yesterday heard about the chat control thing, I was actually thinking, and I haven't heard anybody else talking about this, wait a second. Or are they preparing to force us to this chat thing? Because for the chat thing, you have options. You could boycott all of the big corporations' apps. You can stop using Instagram, stop using WhatsApp, and there are apps that have encryption. Like, for example, I think it was Signal. They said rather to comply with this, they rather go out of the market completely. But if you go out of the market and it's not available in the App Store anymore, then the only way to install an app like this is by sideloading it. So now if Google takes this away, you can't even install that app easily anymore. That's the picture that I see. So now they prepare that because we probably can't even do anything about that. I mean, what I did, not just changing my profile picture, because many people also ask him, what does it even do? That's true. If you just change your profile picture, nothing will happen. But it can inspire others. I mean, it inspired me to make now this video. And if it's just one person that now also wants to be active, here with the chat control, for example, I will link a website where you can automatically make a response in that country that you are, if you are from the EU, and write your representatives. That's what I did for Germany. I sent all of the representatives that they shouldn't allow that. It's a huge violation of privacy laws. What's the big picture? I want to make it now very simple. Oh, I haven't done this yet. I did the intro. What's the big picture? Very simple. China is an example on how the future will look like. To wrap it up, China has a so-called social credit score. They have the digital currency and they have the digital ID. All of this control stuff, surveillance and stuff like that, ties into this. If we become a digital ID, and this is actually happening at the same time, it's rolling out worldwide. Digital ID means, again, convenience. You don't have to have a paper anymore. It's now easier than ever. You just have it on your phone. It's tied to every software. If you still want to do YouTube videos and even watch YouTube videos, you have to upload a ID, biometrics, so that we can verify that you are really you, who you are. Digital ID. Everything will be tied to digital ID. Then we change to digital currency. Because currently, even if they control all the money, you can still do a lot with cash money. You can avoid using card spendings and just buy stuff cash. We will run into a future where this is not possible anymore. And if you don't have cash money anymore, everything digital, that means everything is traceable. Everything can be tracked. And so how can they use this? Very simple. Imagine, now let's go to the utopia that nobody wants to talk about, but what can happen with this is, imagine in the future there is a demonstration and you're not allowed to demonstrate. But because we have civilian there and cameras and everything, like in China, they can see who was there at the demo. And now afterwards, they can limit the way you spend your money because it's digital currency. So now you want to buy something and then no, you're not allowed. Your credit score is under this. You get publicly ashamed. So this is a system where the police doesn't even have to come to you anymore. This is like, we will have this shame system because of the credit score. So nobody will care about what you did. They only see, oh, you're a criminal. You did this. Your score is down. I'm not doing business with you anymore. You can't buy with my place. I don't want to associate with you. We will separate people even more. And that's when you use it, not just for criminals. This is what can happen to any person. Like, imagine we have chat control and AI, and now you have some kind of pattern where I have to think about the movie Minority Report. You remember that one with Tom Cruise? You will have systems in place that will predict what your outcome maybe could be. Oh, he was writing like this. He is becoming a rebel. We don't want rebels because rebels rebel against the government, and that's dangerous because a rebel can start a movement, and if what we do is maybe not liked by the people, that can overtake a government. Happened in the past, revolutions. And to stop that doesn't happen anymore, you use this system with mass control and you shame the people. So you don't even have to become a terrorist or a child abuser or whatever. You don't have to become a criminal. You can just post something on Facebook where you say openly about what I now do. I don't like that we don't have privacy rights, and I don't like that I can have free speech. And boom, your credit score goes down. And boom, you can't buy anything you want. You can't buy any plane tickets anymore. You have to stay in your country. There is the thing that I heard yesterday, the 15-minute city. While the pandemic happened in China, there was something, and you have to look it up, I only remember a fraction of it. They introduced something, the 15-minute circle. So you were only allowed to be in 15-minute circle. And if you somehow didn't comply with this law and comply with this, and there was surveillance everywhere, right? The cameras were seeing what you were doing. And so you went somewhere else. They even had access to, okay, taking away your money. You were not able to buy anything. And they could even lock you from your home. This is the future we're going through, big picture. And this is why it matters, not just if we can repair our own phones, because I think this goes into the same picture. You lose ownership. Agenda 2030. You own nothing and you will be happy. And I think that is not a future I want to go into it. That is not a future I want for my children's. I don't think that this will be a future that we want for us, where every move that you do is tracked and surveillance and one more example. Like I said, the children who are growing up now, they say like, oh, wait a second, you say something against that? So are you guilty? Do you have anything to hide? Because if you don't have anything to hide, then who cares if you get monitored or not? That's the behavior that is actually very, like, how can I say? I don't know how to say it, and I'm also getting tired. This video is very, very long. I think I will end it with this. This is why I changed my profile picture, and I think you should too. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. If you don't know Louis Rossmann yet, go through his channel and watch a couple of the things. There are so many things that I can't put into one video. So thanks again, Louis, for doing what you're doing. And I hope this helps you to see a little bit more of that picture of that future that we are walking towards. So over and out. This is Daniel. Bye.